Hello, everyone. This is Suneve, and I'm coming to you with Killer Romance by Jeff the Killer X Reader by Dark Queen Ray. We're going to be starting off with Chapter 20, Archaic, Day 7. It was almost despairful how the wind blew on the overlapping wings of planes and paper cranes flying around in your mind. You dreamt of them peacefully soaring with the skyline, circling clouds of hope and shooting spirals at the people watching down below. Black butterflies were seen deep in a morose, and they watched. They watched and waited. Maybe they waited for an action or a scene, some scene that would only play in an ill-stricken mind. They needed every piece of evidence that could persuade the losing side into believing that the key to life was winning. They manipulated to get what they wanted, trying to make their cause seem like a gold mine, but everyone thought true happiness was utterly unattainable. The butterflies were a peculiar shade, and you could have sworn the ones outside your window were white, but your brain never registered color properly, most likely. You lived in an inverted world, stuck between right and wrong that sometimes were found disguised as the other. You knew that different directions held different truths, but turning your head was too difficult. Augmented reality was what you were after, and you were happy to just slip away. It's been an exhausting couple of days, you muttered. We've been to Paris, and now we're on an entirely different continent. Jeff sat on the floor next to you, legs sprawled in a sail direction, and placed his arm around your shoulders. I agree, he said. I actually don't believe anything that's happened, if you know what I mean. I never really realize anything that happens to me until a long time after it does. Kind of a shame, actually. I don't laugh until the joke's been buried, and I don't cry until the situation's in the grave. Buried but not dead, that's what he meant. Maybe he felt buried but alive. He could breathe through the mulch and concrete, and no one was brave enough to put the bullet in his head and throw a metal slab over the dirt. He whispered, strange. It didn't stop you from gazing at the interior of the room like it was in some art gallery of the 20th century post-war Japan. It was a small museum, but every picture spoke 1,000 words. Just like the innocent eyes pressed to the back of your skull, they wanted nothing to do with your spasmodic judgment. I don't really know what to say to you anymore, you replied to Jeff after a while. And it was true, there wasn't a good connection between the two of you, nothing to talk about, nothing to do. There wasn't an answer as to why either, you just bonded in stupid, non-similar ways. You both felt victimized, and so you both felt similar. Though the latter was entirely true. You wondered what could have been if you had found a way to be friends with Jeff, or more than friends. Didn't you want to be more than friends? Weren't you supposed to be? God, your memories were so messed up that you had no idea what a clear vision of yesterday looked like. Your days felt short and tiring, lonesome and lustful, full of hatred, full of the face of a man which you could just never memorize. The both of you decided to get out of the hotel for the night and walk the streets or something like that. Jeff hated the stale air in the room, and you could feel the tension getting to your head, throbbing. At least the moon was out to make your day a little brighter, and you always had a special connection with it anyways. It smiled at you as if it was saying you're on the right track, or keep on going with your perfect lifestyle. The only thing was that it was less than perfect. If the moon knew you any better, it would have crawled up the side of the earth to warn you that your lifestyle would cause trouble for everyone around you one day. Walking aimlessly and waiting was one of the most boring things you could ever do, and so it was blocked from your memory completely. You simply stood next to the side of the road, wondering and wishing. It was strange how you hadn't done anything since you arrived in Japan. And Jeff hadn't done a single thing about it. He was standing on the opposite side of the road as if he was watching you and waiting for you to say something or take a giant leap towards him. But you knew that it was his turn to follow your lead. If only he hadn't been staring straight through you the whole time at the Makashi bakery behind you, like you were a ghost. And that's when you ran towards him, swallowing anger and pride and everything else inside, just wishing and waiting for the right moment in which you could leap into his arms and tell him that what he was doing wasn't all that bad, but the moment wouldn't come. Is something wrong? He asked you through his eyes. Oh, you muttered through your nose. Of course not. Something important was missing from your mind, and it would take every ounce of courage to cough it up. Blissful peace was too far away to wish for, just like how the stars that would grant wishes would always be burning meteors in the end. Your blue eyes were blank on the inside, and nothing would change it. The sky was blue, a message was important, and that message written on a piece of paper was flying away with the broken tree branches shaved and squandered. Should you run after it? What if it held secrets you were dying to know? It was probably a gateway to a little insight on your past, and it was beautiful. The evening was silent as the moon and the stars decided to take their leave and sleep through the rest of the night. And that's when you made a choice to follow your brain instead of your heart for the first time. When you glared upwards at the silent sky, you whispered. And it didn't whisper back at you, but it gave you enough courage to reach the edge of the road and slowly step onto the pavement, the gray pavement that would have been red in another life. And this action felt so right, and it was deadly. The adrenaline in your bones almost replaced your blood completely. Hey, he shouted at you, running out of the barrier he spent so much time behind. What the hell are you thinking? You didn't pay him any mind. Just like falling off a building, there was nothing that could be done to save you. You were simply waiting for an end. Subconsciously, you didn't want to die. No, you wanted to live forever with the butterflies that swarmed the windows of not-so-innocent souls. But the back of your brain wasn't up to the same standards as your thinking consciousness. A frozen body can't get you through the snow, you know? So why were your feet stuck to the pool of blood beneath your heels? And why did the sound of a train tracks being match the speed of your heartbeat so delicately? Your heart was brighter than the moon, and that's an understatement compared to how those stars illuminated according to how close the headlights were to your skull. But a ram knocked those thoughts out of your body, and your soul took a trip to the end. You hit your head too hard on the pavement, and God, you believed you would pass out any second, but you never did. And you never wished you did. Your eyes remained open as they scanned the area and tried to understand what happened in the last fate-changing moment. His eyes were over yours, and his face was calling out to you, but the head slam costed you your hearing temporarily. However, it was substituted. It was substituted with a greater power that you were yet to realize was bestowed upon you. You were soon to realize that you had remembered. You almost got hit, Jeff said. You would have died. Do you understand that? You don't just go running out in front of cars thinking you're invincible. Do you want to die? My God, you just dove out in the road. Are you crazy? His arms were clutched to your back tightly. It was to the point where you started to lose feeling in your shoulders. But it was understandable. He wasn't going to let go of you ever again after the stunt you pulled. You could tell by the way he curled his fingers around your shirt and locked his head around your neck in such a way that you could barely breathe or circulate blood to your brain. That he was relieved but still slightly scared. Were you? Your vision increased as you lifted your hand to try and calm his nerves. I think I... Just don't talk, please, he whispered. Other people are starting to realize what happened, and the last thing we need is more attention towards it getting us kicked out of the country. I'm okay, you said, holding the back of your own head instead. There's nothing for them to worry about. I'm worried, not them, he said. He didn't trust you anymore. He was probably planning on taking you back home the next day and counseling you on 100 reasons why trying to kill yourself was a failed attempt at happiness. Did he think that you were trying to get yourself killed? You wondered if he believed you or already did more than the other. You were fine, both in the head on the outside of everything but your head. What you did, on the other hand, indicated that your mentality on life was far from perfect, and Jeff might have believed that more because he never saw the note in the first place. But you never saw the note either, the note that read, "Don't believe him, he's dead." He muttered. You looked like you just saw the most horrifying thing. Well, you did. You remembered when you were supposed to die. Chapter 21. Gaiety. Day 7. Your mind was becoming a maze. Your thoughts and feelings were all tangled up like a bush of thorns in the winter, and you were battling all 6 emotions at once. The vexation of being lied to, trepidation of being killed, incredulity of his betrayal, odium of his inhumanity, and gaiety of his strange yet caring attitude, and dolour of knowing your fate. And on top of all that, every single memory you thought you had lost come crawling back into your spine like a tsunami hurtling a village with a flash flood warning. While you pondered about the mysterious girl named Jane, your brain contemplated every facet of Jeff and what he was doing. What was he doing, and why was he doing it? It was known that you hadn't regained all your consciousness when you discovered the gift of your accident, but you didn't expect a fact to soar in so late. As your brain tiptoed on the tightrope of sanity, an eagle knocked you off your podium with the momentum of a shattered lies. The face of the man destined to kill you was shown before your Shangri-La, and it startled you. His features were prominent when a harsh light blocked his eyes from knowing what was watching him. If he had any clue of what it was, he would likely spiral out of his own sanity and try to pull others down with him. You look grim, Jeff said, sitting next to you on the floor of the hotel room. You, vexation, held your knees up to your chest and answered sinfully, I don't feel grim. Listen, Jeff murmured. He propped himself up on his heels and slowly started walking back and forth across the room as if he was thinking or giving you a speech. I want to know what's going on. It's obvious that something's bugging you, and it's annoying me. I'm sorry about earlier, by the way. I didn't know that it was an accident. I was just scared and really confused. There's nothing wrong with me, you sighed. That's a lie, Jeff declared. He had his arms hanging by his sides and his head hung so that his eyes would face you directly, and he was trepidated. Every gaze and every glare was simply scary. If you didn't know any better or know him any better, you would have ran away like a lost creature in the woods. It was a good thing that he knew he wasn't one for extreme measures without evidence. But your sureness was silenced when he continued his dirty nonsense of an articulation with a phrase that could make everyone in the building rethink their certainty of what they do and do not know. I'm almost sure I know what's happened. You buffered your eyes so that you wouldn't have to face him and wondered whether you should tell him or keep acting like you were innocent and oblivious. Can we talk tomorrow? He decided. I'm tired. His face showed that he was agitated and filled with incredulity and unbelief, but it changed after a moment to show his resentment. He took a breath and then shrugged in a sarcastic fashion to insult you with your own remarks. You could tell that he wasn't ready to give up on you and your false advertisement, but he cared enough to agree for your sake. Maybe he wasn't totally out of the dark. If he really did know, wouldn't he be upset that his cover had been blown? Curling up in a bed that was low to the ground, you felt an inkling of peace and an odium that subsided with every breath. The bed was cold yet consuming. It was like a jacket meant to be worn in frosty weather, but it did nothing more than hide the scars on your arms and conceal the dignity you wouldn't dare let go of. It wasn't able to protect you from sub-zero thoughts of Zephyr, or much like someone you knew nothing about. You fell asleep in the chilly shackles whilst dreaming about the person. It seemed like you learned more about them every time you slept, so it didn't surprise you when a scene of the two of you played about endlessly, where you searched and searched for answers as to why they were ruined the only good part of your life. And that was freedom. They had taken a knife and shoved it into the sharpener thousands of times before they gave you any reason to suspect them, and what they were challenged by. Or what challenge they accepted at the beginning of the story. The story where life and death were simple games. The dream startled you so much that you woke up with a small, dolorful scream. Are you alright? He was standing over you, his frigidly austere hand lightly on your head. He commented on the extreme hypothermia your body was undergoing and cursed at the non-existent reasons why. Even your exponentiated breathing was getting colder by the minute, and the accumulated stress was turning your eyes into a foggy white mess. Can you just calm down for a second? Was it a bad dream? A nightmare that seemed too real? He asked blissfully. It was the worst thing anyone could ever go through, you stuttered. I was trapped in a burning cycle of lies with someone I barely knew, but the scary thing was that I didn't even know myself or what the freedom they took away felt like. I couldn't remember any of it because I was forced to believe that life was excruciating, hard, and painful. He definitely caught on at that point, and he didn't look too happy about it. In fact, he looked so emotionally traumatized and absolutely shocked that he couldn't have been anything more than depressed. It was only then that you noticed how red and sleepless the whites of his eyes were and how crookedly worn out his cheeks felt. The invisible tears climbing up his face looked totally pure. And just as he turned the lamp switch to the other side, forcing the room into the slumber of darkness, he sighed, coughed, and excused himself for the way he displayed his feelings. Hey, he started. I know what happened, and I want you to know that I still love you. He crawled into the side of the bed and snuck his hand under your pillow before nuzzling his face into your neck. It set you on edge, but it was nothing different than his normal abnormal behavior. He whispered, even if you remember everything, if you believe that I won't hurt you, I won't. Your eyes shot open, which made the blankets crinkle. Are you scared? Jeff asked. Other than his voice, it was completely silent in the room, but a slow and calm tick-tock emerged from his hush. It frightened your bones more than it correlated with his outer skeleton. Maybe, you thought. Do you think I'll hurt you? He asked with more force. It was obvious that he needed some sort of answer or inclination that you still believed in him, but you weren't aware of an adequate reply to the question. You didn't know if you felt more frightened or more guilty about the situation, but it was killing him more than it was killing you, ironically. I don't know, I thought. Do you love me? He asked sincerely. This time the edge of his voice was a sorrowful dejection masked by unfulfilled hope. He was hoping that you were still on the same side he was, and that side was neither black nor white. And after letting a tear fall from your left eye, you said yes. That is the end of those two chapters. The chapter after that one is chapter 22, Dweller, Day 8. Let me know what you guys think about this one, and I will get to you guys into the next video. You guys have a lovely day. Bye-bye.